That's $12,000 that he stole. You gotta be kidding me. Girl, take the money and run. You're getting notices on the door. The bank is trying to take the house. Get a job, because you're gonna need it. Hello, little enzymes. Welcome back to Dacia's Digest. We have a relaxed setup today because I just didn't feel like getting out the camera and the lights and all that today or put it on makeup or anything. So I'm just on my laptop and I'm trying to angle my face to where there's not too much of a glare from my laptop, because I know some of you do not like that. Too much of a glare on my glasses. I also have figured out a way to ensure that I am always aware if the screen sharing stops sharing or stops working. So we shouldn't have any more problems with that. Anyway, the topic for today's video is going to be a house is not a home. Everything will be included in the description. Let's just go ahead and get into it. The first story, my boyfriend, 28 male, has been collecting my 24 female rent for a free house. I've been living with my boyfriend for a year. I'm a graduate student, so I have a very minimal income, and I'm very upset about this. But my boyfriend says he was trying to do something nice. My boyfriend and I moved in together to a house that he found. He arranged all of the landlord stuff and told me to send $1,000 a month to the landlord's bank account. This is a very normal rent for our area, but I could have probably spent less if I'd lived in an apartment. I have been doing so for the last year, only to find out yesterday from his mom that his parents actually own the house and they aren't charging us rent. You gotta be kidding me. How long have they been? A year. That's $12,000 that he essentially stole because it hasn't been going to rent. That's insane. She said, upon hearing this, I asked my boyfriend about the $13,000 that he has had me send to some account, and he told me that he was doing it for me as a gift to give back later so I could see how much I've saved. If I wanted to save money, I could have did that on my own. Who are you to say this? We had a story like this where parents did this to their kid while the kid was in college. They were charging him rent, but they didn't actually need it or use it or whatever, so they just put it aside in an account. And then when he graduated, they're like, oh, look, surprise, we kept all the rent money that you gave us over the years. But he was mad because he was like, he struggled so much during college. There were things that he had to miss out on, and he had to work. I think he said he had 2 jobs at one point, something crazy. And he was like, I could have had a much more enjoyable experience if I would have known I didn't actually have to pay rent. And it's yeah, on the one hand, they did do something nice for him and he was able to get a lump sum when he graduated. On the other hand, if you already knew that you were going to do that for him from the outset, you should have let him know or something to where he had a say in the matter. Because knowing that you struggled when you didn't have to struggle because someone else made that choice for you is infuriating. You made me struggle all these years when I really didn't have to, just to be like, oh, it's because I made the choice to do with your money what I thought you should do with it. Essentially is what they did. And it's the same thing here. She said, I'm livid. I'm not irresponsible with money. I have no debt, and I even have some savings. Over the last year, there have been things that I've had to miss out on because they just weren't financially feasible without this money. There have been some times when I couldn't get my tires replaced or couldn't get a new blazer to replace my threadbare one, so my boyfriend got to swoop in and save the day. It always made me feel so bad that he could live just fine on his salary, not that much higher than mine, but I couldn't live well on mine. Now I know it's because he was spending $1,000 less than I was every month. That is insane. She said, I don't know what to do. I feel upset and uncomfortable about the whole situation, but my boyfriend won't listen to me. He keeps saying that this was supposed to be a surprise gift and I'm taking it the wrong way. I don't know what to think. Am I overreacting? And then edit to clarify that his parents didn't seem to know anything about this and were under the impression that neither of us was paying rent. Listen, play it cool. Play it cool at first. Be like, you know what? I had some time to think and I really appreciate, what you did for me with these funds, and I see what you were trying to do. So just go ahead and give me the lump sum and I can put it in my account. Da 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 da. Da. Play it cool so you can get the money. And as soon as you get the money, take the money and run. Take the money and run. Get out of there. Because you think you know how to live my life better than I know how to live my life. And I don't like that. Somebody said, you aren't overreacting. He broke your trust and doesn't really respect you if it's true. I'd ask for the money back now. How do you know he even still has it? Really? This would be relationship ending in my book. He is treating you like a child, not a partner. OP responded, I asked for it yesterday and he got very angry. He said that if he gives it back while I'm mad at him, I'll leave him and that I owe him anyway for the times he supported me financially. I owe him anyway for the times he's supported me financially. Wait a minute. Let me finish the comment. I know I should pay him back some of it, but I certainly don't owe him $13K, more like $1,000. Now, wait a minute. If there was no agreement at the time of the transaction that she was supposed to pay him back, she doesn't owe him anything. And he wouldn't have had to support her financially if he wasn't stealing $1,000 from her a month. So make it make sense, unless he's talking about before they were living together. But again, back to my first point. If he never said, okay, I'll help you out, but just make sure you pay me back, she don't owe him nothing. This is then the fact that he's getting angry when she asked for. That's exactly why I told her, play it cool, act like you understand. Thank you so much for doing what you did. Can I get the money now? I actually could use it. Or I'll put it in my account. Get that money and go. Somebody said, oh no, honey, there are so many issues here. First of all, what the heck are you doing trusting your boyfriend to handle your entire living situation? You didn't ever ask to see or sign a lease. You didn't ask to know the total rent or ever want to meet the landlord yourself. You have boundary and independence issues out the wazoo. That being said, your boyfriend really stole your money and lied to you. He's manipulative and psycho. Immediately ask for your money back, move out, and break up with him. She said, I signed a lease and was told that the total rent was $2,000 a month. I didn't sit down and read every single term because I trusted my boyfriend. See, and that is just idiotic. I don't care who you are. I'm going to read the lease. The landlord could be trying to, mess you over. You can't just blindly sign contracts because, oh, I trust you. All right, well, you trusted and you're 13,000 in the hole because of that trust. That trust cost you some money. So I guess this is an update. She said, my boyfriend and I moved into a house, or maybe this is a different post. She said, I was sent here by r/relationships and put up a more detailed post over here. My boyfriend and I moved into a house together a year ago. And then she basically explains. And some other comments, did you sign a lease of any sort? If not, your boyfriend was charging you $1,000 per month in rent. It doesn't matter if he was not being charged rent himself. Shouldn't this post say ex-boyfriend? And that is kind of true. If she did make an agreement with him to pay that much, he could technically say she was a subleaser and he was like the landlord and that was just the rent. It's definitely effed up, but he could try to spin it like that. OP said the lease doesn't say anything about rent. I looked back at it and it basically says that we won't trash the house or move other people in. His parents didn't know about any of this as far as I know. It's their house, not my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend's. Oh, okay, so the actual lease. But even still, if that was the agreement that y'all made, I'm assuming she posted this in like a legal advice subreddit. If that was the agreement that y'all made between y'all two, I could see how potentially this wouldn't hold up in court. So your best course of action is going to be to try to get the money from him directly and see if he'll actually give it to you. Or I would get the parents involved. I would snitch. Somebody said, so there was a lease and you have it in writing. And it says the apartment is being rented to both of you rent-free and you and your boyfriend both signed it. OP said the lease just says nothing about paying rent. His mom is the owner of the house and I have a message from her that says she wasn't being paid rent and that neither of us was being charged. I don't know, that's a sticky situation. She could try to like have some legal course of action, but it is a bit of a tricky situation. Somebody said he extorted you, get the F out. His reasoning is a lie to obfuscate what he actually did. 2 weeks later, she said, I told my ex-boyfriend I was moving out with or without the money, and he told me that if I left him, he could keep the gift for himself. I told him whatever and called his mother and told her I was leaving. She asked why, and I told her the whole story. She asked me to give her a few minutes and then she would get back to me. I heard her call my ex in the other room and could hear her yelling at him through the phone. She called me back and told me to take pictures of the rooms. I sent them to her and she gave me the all clear over text. She also sent me an apology for my ex's behavior. I left and thought that was that. A few days later, I got a check in the mail for $15,000 from my ex's mom. Not exactly justice because the original money was indeed probably gone, but I walked away feeling pretty good about the whole thing. Girl, like I said, take the money and run. And you got a little bit extra for your troubles. I call that a win. But that is insane. Now, that is crazy. That was 7 years ago. The next story, am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother after his ex-girlfriend scammed him out of nearly half the equity of his house? I, 37 female, have an older brother, George, 45 male, who isn't an idiot, but he can be lazy. Definitely the type to rely on weaponized incompetence whenever women and girls are around. Ugh, I hate that. Example, he literally acted like he didn't know where our mom kept the paper plates in the house he lived in for nearly 20 years just so she'd get up, go into the kitchen, and make him his plate during the holidays, just 1 week post her bunion surgery. And it's the mom's fault for actually getting up and doing it. Because I would have you look through every cabinet in the house before I'm getting my ass up after I just had surgery to make your ass a plate, an able-bodied individual. She said, side note, they both tried to passive-aggressively make me feel guilty for not offering to fix my adult brother's plate so our mom wouldn't have to do it. Like I wasn't the only one doing the most of the cooking and would be doing most of the cleaning afterwards. At age 30, George was given a windfall from our grandfather's estate. I got something too, and used it as a down payment for a nice 5-bedroom house that's easily worth double now. During this time, he met Melinda, 50 female, and she was a nice lady, smart, responsible, hardworking, sweet, and very organized. She came into the relationship with a steady job and was upfront about lack of ability to have more children after complications from nearly losing her life giving birth to her daughter. George stated that he was okay with that, but whenever Melinda would bring up his hesitation regarding marriage, he'd say that he had complicated feelings about not being able to be a father if he chose to fully commit to her, and that he needed to process. How long were they together? Because, sir, you're 45. Why are we even considering having kids at this age? Seriously. So I wonder if this was some years ago. Because let's just be for real, sir. Now, people have their babies at whatever age or whatever, but unless, I don't know, I just feel like 45, come on now. But to each their own. Anyway, he said that since he was willing to overlook her fertility issues because he loved her, that she needed to show her love by waiting for him. That line worked for 12 years. Oh, okay. So he's 45 now. Oh, okay. So around that time, he was like 33. That makes a lot more freaking sense. Because I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Dang. So he strung her along for 12 years. She said after Melinda moved in, George demanded that she pay half the bills and part of his mortgage in exchange for allowing Melinda's daughter to move in with her. At the time, Melinda had little options as her former landlord was raising the rent too high, and she was helping pay for her sister's medical bills. Melinda and George justified to everyone by saying what she would have had to pay to George was still cheaper in rent at her old place. I said nothing because it's not my relationship. 2 years ago, George was caught cheating, and Melinda was furious and then left. I don't know all the details, but she came back seeming to work things out. It didn't stop George from cheating, but Melinda shrugged and said that this was still a better deal, and so long as he kept it from the house, she would cope. Recently, there was some type of damage to George's house, and he needed people to come in and fix it, but he hated the labor of searching for a reliable contractor, taking time away from his job and hobbies to deal with them and the paperwork. Melinda offered to do it, and he didn't question it. Whatever she gave, he signed, and in front of third-party witnesses. Melinda got George to sign paperwork stating that she was entitled to 45% of his house. Yo, now she's dumped him and is demanding that George either sells his house or buy her out. George is trying to fight this, citing that he didn't fully understand what he was agreeing to, and he's found a lawyer willing to take his case, but his fees are expensive. George and our mom think that I should help, but I'm refusing. I don't see why I have to shell out thousands to save another grown man from his own lack of foresight, especially when there's a good chance he won't even win. I'm being called heartless and a bad sister, so I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Again, just like that girl who got scammed out of all that rent. You're signing stuff and not reading over it, not reviewing it. You're just putting your signature on a legal document and expecting everything to go well. That's your fault. I'm sorry. If nobody ever taught you about how to sign contracts or read over contracts, now you know, and it was an expensive lesson to learn. But sometimes we must learn it. And look, it was wrong of Melinda, the ex, to do that. At the same time, it was wrong of him to cheat. So the way I see it, they're even. The way I see it, she got the monetary contribution for her troubles and her pain and suffering. It's a settlement in my eyes. So he should have cheated. And it sounded like she was helping manage the house. And no. And she paid half the mortgage. I forgot about that. No, so legit, I feel like she does. I don't know if 45% is the right amount, but since they were together for so long, I really actually feel like she does deserve some equity in the house. How much did it say? Yeah, she paid half the bills and part of the mortgage. Okay, so yeah, I don't know exactly what percentage of the mortgage she paid, but she paid some. She helped him be able to maintain the house and was also physically taking care of the house, contractors and stuff like that. She definitely, and it's his fault he didn't read the paperwork. So look, I'm on her side. A downvoted comment says, you can't give a part of the house without a notary contract, whatever he signed. He's an idiot for not reading. He should have left this woman a long time ago. Opie said, I believe the third party who witnessed my brother sign the document was a licensed notary. Someone else, not the a-hole, but who is expecting to have more kids with a 50-year-old? For me, it sounds more like he was looking for an excuse to play victim ever since the beginning of the relationship. By the way, I'm not the youngest woman, and I think this question is important. But Opie said she was in her 40s when they got together, but I agree, he was just using that as an excuse. Even 40s, look, it's possible, but somebody said, I think it's funny how you say he's not an idiot, and then you go on to explain exactly why he is an idiot. Opie said, I truly don't believe that my brother is an idiot. He's just lazy. Like, if he actually put in the time and work to actually fact check, Melinda wouldn't have been able to do what she did. Someone, not the a-hole, George had it coming, stringing that woman along for years, manipulating her by making her feel guilty over not being able to have more children, having her pay half of the mortgage for his house, and then cheating on her. He made the bed, let him lay in it. I would probably have to agree. Somebody said, your brother is a cheater and a fool. Was Melinda a bit underhanded? Arguably, yes. Does she deserve a share of the house in return for all she paid into it? Not to mention 12 years of domestic and emotional labor? Arguably, also yes. That's what I'm saying. And then they said, but when it comes to whether you should shell out for your brother's legal fees, the answer is unequivocal no. He was a huge a-hole and ridiculously careless with his most significant asset, and that's not your responsibility to fix. He's an adult. He needs to fix his own mistakes. Ain't no way I'm spending any money for a grown man's legal defense for a situation that he got himself in. You got yourself in a situation, get yourself the money to get out. I'm not doing it, especially when it was a situation that could have been avoided literally just by reading what you signed or paying attention to something that you signed. So nearly 2 weeks later, there was an update. She said, okay, there's been an update, and I have to say, while I still don't think my brother is an idiot overall, he is a lazy and very arrogant dumbass. I also wanted to clarify a few things as well. Melinda and my brother were in a relationship for 12 years, but they only started living together for about 9 to 10 years. Also, the documents were signed in the presence of a notary who asked my brother if he understood the context of the documents, and he affirmed that he did. And to the person who said that my brother was house poor, you hit the nail on the hammer. My brother spent the majority of his inheritance and savings on buying that house, and it barely had any furniture in it. When Melinda moved in, she paid to have it furnished on top of splitting the utilities and paying the rent. The more I read, the more I agree with her. She deserves 45%. Actually, she deserves 50%, for real. But she was probably being nice just doing 45. She definitely deserves whatever money. Yeah. Opie said, now on to the new stuff. When my brother's house needed fixing, he let Melinda do the grunt work of finding reputable establishments to consider because he didn't want to be bothered. Melinda presented him with up to 3 options and convinced him to go with Company A because they were offering seasonal discounts for first-time customers and or new owners for specific items. Melinda's plan to get both discounts was to present it as if she recently became the partial owner and had my brother email Company A to see if they'd be willing to accept that. Company A responded that if Melinda recently became part owner of the house, then they'd be willing to give a partial discount as a courtesy. So he knew what he really... No, he has no excuse. So he literally actually did know what he was signing. He knew that he was signing a document to state that she was partial owner of the house. And he did it anyway. I literally, any small little piece of sympathy that I might have felt for him is out the window. She said Company A was a small business with an excellent reputation in terms of service, quality of work, and meeting deadlines. So my brother was all in. What my brother didn't realize was that Company A went by the honor system when it came to Melinda and my brother's case, but on their website it did say proper document needed to be shown. So Melinda told my brother that she'd come up with fake documents that he could sign in the presence of a notary that she knew through a friend who was supposed to be in on the scam. They weren't, but that's what she told my brother. The actual signing was at their home in front of the notary and 2 people from Company A who were initially there to survey the area. So basically, my brother thought that he and Melinda were scamming Company A, when in reality, Melinda was scamming him. He thought the documents he was signing were fake, but they were real, and that's his defense. This is why he had trouble finding a lawyer. I wouldn't blame anyone here who thought that this was fake because what the heck. So anyway, I'm not going to give him the money, but I will give him a list of realtors. Okay, I mean, that makes sense, but even still, I don't know. At 45 years old, how dumb do you have to be to get a notarized document signed? Like, to get a notarized document, that is saying that it's like serious, like something is serious. You have to provide your legal ID, get it scanned, have witnesses, all this stuff. That is a legally binding document. Just because you think that the document is quote unquote fake, once you get this fake document signed, it becomes real. So I still don't feel sorry for him. He still has some idea of what was going on and chose to be oblivious. I don't know. And even if he was oblivious, I don't feel bad for him. Somebody said, it sounds like she did actually contribute financially to the house. After 10 years, most people are considered to be in a settled relationship, and it's not like she got part ownership and then next day demanded half of the sale price. Being a moron isn't considered a defense, and the whole situation is a cluster F, he said, she said. I think you're being very sensible to stay out of it and not contribute towards brother's legal fees. He's going to lose anyway and should take the hit. There is no loophole for him to find to nullify her share of the house, and to be honest, she is probably entitled as she's been living with him for so long. He's an unreliable narrator, and after you remove all of the extra crap he's saying, he basically wants her out on the streets after 10 years without a penny to her name. Yeah, she deserves the money in the house. Like, let's not even try to argue. Somebody said, damn, the man decided even weaponized incompetence was too much effort, so he went with actual incompetence instead. Oh, the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to sell the house my wife wants me to sell? When my ex and I divorced, I moved out and she lived in our house until she found her own place. I bought the house 3 years before we got married, and her name was added to the deed when we were married. At the time of our divorce, I was 9 years into the 15-year mortgage. When she found her own place, we decided to keep the house in both of our names and rent it out because neither of us wanted to sell it. For the past 6 years, we have rented out the house and basically broke even. She manages the property more than I do, so she kept the meager profits. Now that the house is paid off, we are actually going to start turning actual profit. We agreed to a 60-40 split of the profits, with her keeping 60 because she is the one that deals with the tenants. My wife, who I married last year, really wants me to sell this house. At first, she wasn't that insistent, but lately she has become so. She said there's no reason for me to co-own a house with my ex-wife. She also says that now that it is paid off, we could do a cash sale and make a lot of money. Neither my ex nor I want to sell, and it's our house, so I don't really see the point of these conversations. Even if I agreed with her, my ex wouldn't agree, and it would be an unnecessary fight. I'd have to get a lawyer. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Last night, my wife asked me if I intended to co-own this house with my ex forever. I told her, truthfully, that we had many times discussed eventually giving it to our son when he reaches the appropriate life stage. She was upset by this answer. She asked if I intended to give a house to my stepkids or any future kids we might have. I told her this is an apples and oranges situation. This house isn't fully mine. No penny has ever gone from our shared household into that house. It's more my ex's than mine at this point, really. Not legally. Legally, it's 50-50, but she spends more time on it. Also, this isn't a nice house. Not like the one my wife and I bought after our wedding. The house I co-own with my ex is a small 2-bedroom house. It's not like he's going to get a mansion. All the same, she is very upset. She says she feels like the house is a source of strife in our relationship and she wants it gone. I told her I love her, but the answer is no. She's been cold to me all morning as a result. I mean, I could sympathize with the uncomfortable feeling of your husband and the man you love being so enmeshed with his ex with an endeavor like this. At the end of the day, like, it really ain't got nothing to do with her, for real. It really ain't got really much to do with her, because this is not like her marital asset, you know? And I don't know. I feel like this is for her is more about controlling the situation versus actually wanting like the profits from the house and whatever. And he is getting profits from the house because now they're able to have tenants who are paying rent. So you'd rather get one lump sum versus a regular stream of income over the course of time while the house appreciates. You can make upgrades and stuff to it. And then maybe sell it like later on down, or he said he was going to give it to the son. But I can understand the emotional side of what the current wife is feeling. Logically, though, she got to get over it. Someone said it's not about the house. OP responded, yeah, I know. But all the same, is it reasonable to demand I get rid of something valuable as a sort of weird loyalty ritual? Someone else, not the a-hole, she's coming off as greedy and a bit jealous here. Acting like it's weird that you essentially co-own a business or investment with your ex, whom is also the mother of your son. It's not like you're playing house with her. Add to that the fact she seems more focused on getting the money for herself and her kids. How did you get this far into the marriage without your plans for the house coming up? Were you always clear about them, or? Opie responded, it has come up many times, but she has gotten more insistent than she was before. Previously, it was her preference that I sell it. Now it's almost a demand. Another comment, she sounds very firm in her opinion. Unfortunately, she does not have a say. It is your property that will benefit your son, and most of all, does not impact her. I would ask your wife why she all of a sudden set a boundary here. Furthermore, where is she intending to go with your money? Don't cave or give in. She's rude, immature, and manipulative with her treatment of you. Opie said she thinks we could put the money in our retirement plans and the children's college funds. Someone responded, is she not able to put equal amount into her half of the retirement plan? Also equal amount into her existing kids, your stepkids, with her ex into their college funds? Her kids with her ex isn't your burden unless you sign papers to legally adopt them. Opie said, I am actually in the process of adopting them. It's just difficult because we don't know where her ex lives, so that complicates everything. Another comment, why do you need to pay for your stepkid's college fund? Why isn't she and the child's father doing that? That should have no issue with you. Opie said the bio dad is gone. Someone else, not the a-hole, I fully understand your current spouse, yet I do not think she grasps the situation fully since she cannot be in your shoes. If you and your ex-wife are on good terms, relatively speaking, consider selling your share to her if she's open to it, or buy her share to fully own it again. And please do not add your wife's name to any future properties. Love triumphs all, but money, like a rotten one, can spoil a fresh basket of fruit. I don't think he should be trying to sell his share or do any of that. Like, it literally has nothing to do with her. And then, I mean, hopefully this would never happen, but like, what if she was in the ex's shoes? How would she feel if the house that she's in now, some new girl was trying to convince her ex to sell it just for, like, I don't think she would be having the same things to say about it if she was in the ex's shoes. But anyway, Opie responded, my wife's name is on our current home, as it should be. Regarding my ex buying me out, I don't think that's fair to her, so she should shoulder the financial burden of something for the benefit of our shared child. Someone said, you've been married for a year. Who owned your current home when you married? You should consult a financial counselor right now to get a reasonable plan, because as things stand, you could be headed for a bigger financial mess with your second wife. Opie said, we bought it together right after the wedding. Someone else, did she contribute a significant amount to the down payment? Is she employed now? He said, yes, a quarter of the down payment came from her. We are in the same earning bracket. She makes almost as much as I do. Since she has 2 kids and a deadbeat ex, she wasn't able to save as much as me before we married, but we both contribute more or less equally to our current shared household. Another comment, do you have a prenup that excludes this property from being claimed as community property by wife number 2? Opie said, in my state, property owned before a marriage is not considered community property unless the spouse contributes to the property, like mortgage payments, repairs, etc. Since my ex has been managing the property, she's been the one paying the mortgage from the rental proceeds and handling repairs and such, so there's no reality where my wife could claim a stake in this property. They asked, how old is OP's son? He's almost 12. They asked, is OP on the college funds for all of the children involved? OP said, yes. My son has a college fund. We also have set up funds for my stepkids. My stepson is 7 and my stepdaughter is 5. They're very smart children. And then regarding his divorce, he said, my ex-wife was in an accident that limited her mobility and killed her libido. Our sexless marriage made me resentful of her and made her paranoid that I was stepping out on her, which made me even more resentful because I was both not getting any and dealing with accusations of getting what I wasn't getting. Also, on top of all of that, my previously active wife now couldn't do most of the fun activities we used to share. Finally, she said, if we stay married, eventually we'll hate each other. Let's get divorced while we at least still like each other. You'll be free, and all I ask in return is that you look out for me. So that's what we did. I got to move on and marry someone I'm compatible with, and I'll always make sure she and our son are happy and healthy. It was her idea. And then current wife, he said, I am 37 and she is 31. Somebody said, your first wife wedged herself into a shared owner of an asset wholly owned by you and protected in a divorce. Your second wife is trying to do the same. Up to you when you want to learn this lesson, now or in 7 to 10 years. OP said, what are you talking about? My ex-wife didn't wedge anything. For our entire marriage, she paid half the mortgage. When we redecorated, she was the one that painted. She was the one that maintained the garden. She was the one that kept the house clean. That counts for nothing. So what? She was just my indentured servant? Some of you have very gross ideas of women. I agree. If she, especially, I didn't even know she was paying any bills in the house. And I was thinking, yeah, her name should be on the house. But especially if she's paying bills, if she's decorating, if she's making upgrades to the house, her name for sure needs to be on the house. There's no way I would be paying a penny of a mortgage, a cent of a mortgage of a house that my name is not on. I might as well live alone. So update 5 days later, he said, well, I decided to make some changes to the house situation, but my wife didn't like them. My ex and I are filing a new deed where we each gifted our son a portion of our equity that falls just under the annual gift tax exemption. If we do this every year, by the time our son is 18, the house will be fully or almost fully his, no tax penalty. To say my wife was pissed would be an understatement. I'm going to use my share of the rental proceeds, split 4 ways, to buff up the college savings for each kid, mine, hers, and the baby we're trying for. My wife is unhappy with all of this. I told her the house is an asset from my previous marriage, and so it goes to the benefit of my son from the previous marriage. Any assets she had with her ex would be rightfully my stepkids if such assets existed. Unfortunately, they do not. I basically said, we need to get past this because if we're going to bring a baby into the world, we can't be fighting about such a non-issue. She said she would accept it and move on, but she needed some time to do so. Basically, that's the situation. And for clarification, a lot of you are confused about what the initial understanding concerning the house was. My ex and I invested money in this house. Our understanding was always that the house would be our son's once he became an adult, not that any income made off of it before that would be his. We always intended to split profits once the house became income generating, which it only recently has. Someone responded to him saying, like, that's the resolution. And they said, no, it isn't. She will keep fighting you. You need to fix your head and think of your son. She will try everything to get your son out of the picture, and his money is getting laid that important to you? OB said, I've mostly been ignoring really hateful comments because I know that's just how this website is. Here's the thing. You don't know my wife. We had a financial disagreement that isn't indicative of her feelings towards my son. She thinks holding the house is a waste when the money could go into a high yields savings fund for college for the kids or in our retirement accounts. It's frustrating to her that I disagree with what she thinks is the best course, and since the house isn't hers, her opinion isn't counted. Dealing with frustration is a part of life. That doesn't make her a bad person. Then someone says, I would never stay married to someone who insists on owning a house with his ex-wife for years to come. There are so many other ways you could keep that money separate to give to your child when the time comes. Opie said it's not about the money. If he wants to sell the house when he inherits it, he can. But the point is to give him something valuable that we have maintained for him for years. It's a symbol of how our love for him has never wavered, even if we don't love each other anymore. Then he also said, I make around 120K, she makes around 80K. He said they was in the same tax bracket. A $40,000 disparity, sir. I don't think that's the same tax bracket, sir. That's a large disparity. Now, granted, he said that everything goes into the, pot, so they don't really kind of anyway. He responded to a lot of comments. So some of these I'm just going to skip, but let me see if there's any update here, because this was pretty recent. No additional update. Let me see if I can find one more short one. Ooh, so this one sounds interesting. Am I overreacting? Husband has been lying about finances and I want a divorce. My 41 female husband, 51 male, and I have been married for 12 years and have 3 kids and also adult stepkids who were adults when I married him. I have a good relationship with my stepkids who are estranged from their biological mom. I stayed home with our young kids at his urging. I was working when I met him, and he provides financially through a business he owns. Over the years, I have asked many times about our taxes and have been told that they have been taken care of. At some point, maybe 5 years ago, we started getting notices of a lien on our house. When I asked him about this, he said it was some kind of clerical mistake, not to worry about it. See, what is going on in all these stories with people just refusing to get the information that they need to make an informed decision? Adults at that. I don't care if I'm not paying no bills in the house. I kind of want to see the accounts. I kind of want to have the login information just so I can see what's going on. I don't think I would be comfortable with someone just being like, oh yeah, I paid it. Yeah, it's good. Even if I wasn't the one making the money, I still would want to be the one to pay the actual bill so I could know that they're actually getting paid. Like, I don't know. I just don't think I would feel comfortable with someone else having 100% management over the place where I'm living and my livelihood. Anyway, he told her not to worry. And especially if there's lien notices, now that is serious. If you're getting lien notices on your house and you're still not asking no questions, now I'm side-eyeing you. Because it's one thing if you're not getting anything at all. So you really have no reason to ask any questions or suspect anything, but you're getting notices on the door. The bank is trying to take the house and you still don't do more research. Let me just keep reading. She said, I started to get the inkling that he wasn't being honest and I asked him about it many times. He would be aggressively angry at me for accusing him of lying and convinced me that I was being paranoid and trying to sabotage our relationship. A couple of years ago, we started going to couples counseling for some other issues we were having, mainly dead bedroom because I just don't trust him. There are some other issues, mainly with him not listening to how I feel, dismissing me, and treating me like his maid. In therapy, he also lied about the financial issues, but I didn't know at the time. The therapist made me feel like everything was my fault because I was not trusting a relationship improved for a little bit. Until a couple of months ago, when I checked my bank account and noticed that the, I'm assuming IRS, had taken money out. I confronted him about it, and he confessed that he had not paid the taxes on the business in a couple of years, which is, for some reason, connected to our taxes. He explained that he was just so stressed out, blah, 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 and tried to blame it on his accountant. So basically what she's saying is the business taxes should be separate from their personal taxes. And yeah, if their personal taxes weren't filed correctly, then since they're married, if the IRS is going to garnish any wages or payments, it's going to come from wherever they can get it, because y'all are married and everything is we. But as far as a business, the reason that usually people even file business designations is so that anything that happens with the business is with the business and it doesn't affect your personal finances. So he messed up there too. She said, I tried to get over the dishonesty. A couple of weeks later, I found out that it's actually been 10 years that he hasn't paid taxes. So when he supposedly came clean because he got caught, he initially only told me part of the story. 10 years? She said, I'm just over it and I want a divorce. You probably can't afford it. I can't get over the dishonesty and the fact that I don't believe anything he says anymore, not even if he says I'm going to the store. Not to mention the possible legal and financial consequences for me. But when I talk to people about it, they seem like they think I'm overreacting and that I should try to forgive him. Girl, no. Get a job because you're going to need it. You're going to need it. I'm sorry. This man ruined y'all. If he would have done better to be like, look, let's have a hard conversation. I can't continue to maintain the household finances alone. I'm going to need you to start working. He would have did better to do that. Or talk to her about what's happening so they could try to brainstorm a situation. But 10 years not filing taxes is a choice. That's actually ridiculous. Somebody said you need your own lawyer and fast. I completely agree. She got to figure out how she can get out of this the best. I mean, it's going to sting, but she got to get out the best way she know how with most of her finances intact. I would be transferring any little money I did have over to a trusted individual or something so I could at least or pull it out in cash. I don't know. I'd be trying to do something. Put it in a 401k, something. I don't know. Somebody said, yeah, get off Reddit and find a way to retain a lawyer. Beg, borrow, or steal it. You are in for a world of trouble and you need help you can't get here. Run to a lawyer's office, gather all the paperwork you can get your hands on, bank statements especially. That's if you can access them. Might want to find a firm that specializes in taxes and divorce. One-stop shop. Best of luck to you. It's not the end of the world and you can bounce back, but right now you need professional help. Somebody responded, you're an innocent spouse. You need IRS form 8857. I know that's right. Somebody said, and because of the lies, he needs to be made legally responsible for all back taxes and debt. Someone else said, very hard to pull that one off depending on which state. Be careful who you marry, folks. OP responded, so true. I thought I was being careful, choosing someone, quote, stable. I am an idiot. I should have listened to my mom, who told me to never trust a man. And I'm not saying all men are untrustworthy, just that it's stupid to blindly trust anyone. Someone responded, you're not an idiot. He was a convincing liar because his lifestyle depended on it. Lying to his wife makes him the idiot, not you. Do not waste time or energy on regret. Use your time and energy to work with your lawyers to get untangled from this man and his finances as quickly and cleanly as you can. Moving forward, I wish you all the best. And put a lock on your Social Security. Ain't no telling, he probably done opened up lines of credit in your name. If he can lie this bad for this long, it's really no telling. You need to start doing some research. And you really got a lot to uncover here. I agree with the professional help. I completely agree. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.